There is a question that has haunted the ambitious for centuries. What is the fastest way to get rich? Not the most moral, not the safest, but the fastest. Most people spend their entire lives chasing shadows, wandering aimlessly through the maze of hard work and frugality. The truth has always been in plain sight, but the wealthy, those who understand the machinery of power, have no interest in sharing it. Because if you knew how the game truly worked, you would stop playing their game and start building your own. So, let us shatter the illusion. Riches do not come to the most intelligent person in the room, nor to the one sweating at the hardest job. If intelligence or effort were the key, teachers, janitors, and construction workers would dominate the lists of the wealthy. But they do not, because the game does not reward virtue, it rewards power. And power, when properly leveraged, prints money. Centuries ago, Machiavelli did not write for the masses. He wrote for the rulers. In his sharp, unapologetic prose, he taught a principle few dare to utter: life by control brings wealth, not work. Not kindness, but control. Control of perception, of resources, of people. He understood the world as it is, not as it ought to be. And what he saw was this: money flows fastest to those who shape reality, not those who obey it. That is why the rise to riches often appears sudden. One year a man is invisible. The next he is making headlines, running empires, dining with kings. But nothing about his rise was sudden. It was surgical, strategic. He did not stumble into wealth. He bent reality until it poured wealth into his lap. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people are mentally caged. They believe safety equals prosperity. Work 40 years. Save, invest modestly, retire modestly, die modestly. But modesty does not build empires, boldness does. Machiavelli would scoff at the idea of slow wealth. He would say, he who dares is he who ascends. The ladder to riches is not climbed one careful step at a time. It is seized by those who leap while others hesitate. It is not luck, it is the reward for courage and cunning. The rich do not just act, they act when others freeze. They do not play fair, they play to win. Most people remain broke because they sell the one thing that never scales: time. They work by the hour, grind through tasks, hustle endlessly, believing that effort will eventually lead to a breakthrough. But effort without leverage is a hamster wheel. The janitor mops harder, the CEO moves capital. One is exhausted, the other is enriched. Why? Because the CEO controls systems, he commands people, he owns platforms. The janitor's effort has no leverage. Machiavelli would point to this and say, there lies your poverty. Not in your effort, but in your position. Power creates wealth, and power at its core is the ability to make others act in accordance with your vision. That is why perception matters more than truth. If you are seen as powerful, others defer to you. They lend you their time, their loyalty, their resources. You multiply those and you ascend. That is why the fastest path to riches is to stop acting like a laborer and start positioning yourself as a leader. Stop trading effort. Start trading direction. Build systems, build movements. Every empire is built on the backs of those who follow. So the first step is simple. Stop following. If you want wealth fast, you must abandon the environments that reward obedience and seek those that reward boldness. A job that pays you to be cautious is a cage wrapped in a salary. No matter how nice the cage, it is still a trap. The worst part is it steals your prime years. You give your youth, your energy, your fire, only to retire with crumbs. Meanwhile, those who took the risk early are now buying companies. Buying land, buying time, because they moved when others stayed still. And the world always rewards movement. To move fast, you need leverage. And leverage means you do something once, but it works for you 1,000 times. That is why ownership matters. Own a business, own digital real estate, own assets, own distribution channels. Whatever you do, own something, because owners build equity and equity compounds. Employees build empires for other people. So if you are still acting like a worker, understand this: you are building someone else's throne. And what of perception? It is the invisible engine of rapid wealth. The way people see you determines what they offer you. Flaws bring deals, charisma brings investors, certainty brings followers. If people believe you are rising, they hand you their energy before you even ask. So, control how you are seen. Control the narrative. Craft an image so compelling that people chase you before you even speak. But let us be clear, none of this works without boldness. You must develop a bias for action. Most people drown in hesitation. They want certainty. They want guarantees. But by the time they are ready, the window is gone. The rich do not wait, they leap. And yes, sometimes they fall. But more often, they land on fortunes. Because in this world, speed beats perfection. A fast, imperfect move is more powerful than a perfect move that never happens. When you move fast, people will notice. They will call you lucky. They will say you are reckless. But that is because you are breaking the unspoken rule: do not move without permission. But Machiavelli never asked for permission. He acted. He manipulated. He conquered. And that is why his words echo centuries later. He did not play the game, he rewrote it. And here is where the psychology cuts deep. Most people do not act boldly because they fear loss. But the greatest loss is the life unlived. If you hesitate every time you feel fear, you hand your future to someone else. Fear in the hands of the bold becomes fuel. It sharpens the senses. It clarifies decisions. And those who rise fastest are not those without fear, but those who move through it. So how do you begin? You act. You pick one move you have been avoiding and you execute it. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. You send the pitch, you start the brand, you call the investor, you step into the arena, and you claim the attention. Because wealth does not wait. It does not reward the careful. It rewards the daring. And when you dare, truly dare, something shifts. People sense it. They gravitate toward it. And opportunities multiply at a speed that will seem like magic to those who remain stuck in the slow lane. But it is not magic. It is strategic. It is power weaponized. When you embrace this mindset, the world no longer feels random. You begin to see that wealth does not appear by accident. It obeys laws. And those laws bend to those with leverage. Let us go deeper. If you want to move faster than the crowd, you need to stop relying on effort and start relying on multipliers. These multipliers are everywhere, but they remain invisible to those too caught up in the grind to notice them. The man working 10 hours a day has no time to look up. The man building a system steps back, sees the whole chessboard, and moves 5 pieces at once. So, what are these multipliers? They come in 4 forms: money, people, knowledge, and attention. Each one, when mastered, can accelerate your rise beyond what hard work alone could ever achieve. Let us start with money. Most fear debt. The wealthy exploit it. The poor say, I cannot afford to start. The rich say, whose capital can I leverage to scale this faster? Loans, partnerships, crowdfunding, investors. These are not crutches. They are catapults. When used with precision, they launch you years ahead. While others are saving to build the first brick, you have already built the tower with someone else's resources. Next, people. Machiavelli knew that the ruler does not pull the sword himself. He directs others to do so in his name. Power multiplies through delegation. You must learn to influence, persuade, and mobilize. A leader who inspires others to act in alignment with his vision can scale faster than any solo genius. Employees, partners, followers. These are not costs, they are engines. You do not climb the ladder alone. You build an elevator and others help you rise. Then comes knowledge. But not the passive consumption most people mistake for learning. Real leverage lies in asymmetrical knowledge, knowing what others do not, acting before others see, spotting trends before they go mainstream, buying before the herd arrives, selling before the crowd panics. The world rewards those who move early, those who learn fast and apply faster. Reading is not enough. Learning is not enough. You must act on insight while it is still invisible. And finally, attention, the most underestimated form of leverage in the modern world. If people know your name, they trust you. If they trust you, they buy, they follow, they invest. One post, one video, one idea seen by millions. That is leverage. A man can earn more from a single broadcast of charisma than a lifetime of silent effort. Why do influencers rise so quickly? Because attention is currency and those who command it can convert it into anything: sales, influence, capital, control. The battle for wealth is a battle for eyeballs. So what do most people do? The opposite. They try to do it all themselves. They save slowly, work silently, build cautiously. Machiavelli would call this cowardice disguised as virtue. The man who insists on moving alone wears pride like a chain. He believes self-reliance is noble, but in truth it is slow, small, and fragile. The rich move with armies. They move with alliances. They ride waves of attention, not whispers of approval. They gather strength not to be loved, but to be obeyed. The psychology is brutal, but clear. Humans are attracted to strength. When they see someone moving with vision, clarity, and speed, they want to be a part of it. People follow motion. They do not follow perfection. That is why you must act even when the path is blurry. When others wait for the map, you build the road. That act alone creates magnetism. And magnetism is wealth. If you ignore this truth, the consequences are devastating. You burn out. You work harder while others rise faster. You become bitter, watching younger, less deserving people pass you. But it is not about fairness, it is about strategy. Leverage beats labor every single time. So stop asking how can I do this and start asking who can do this with me, or what tool will make this faster. That mental shift changes the game instantly. You go from builder to architect, from worker to general. Now here is where the game gets real. When you start to rise fast, you will attract resistance, jealousy, sabotage, betrayal. These are not signs you are doing something wrong. They are signs you are doing it right. Machiavelli warned that the powerful will always have enemies because power makes others uncomfortable. It exposes their lack of courage, their lack of vision, their lack of will, and instead of rising themselves, they will try to drag you down. Expect it, prepare for it, laugh at it. Because if no one is trying to stop you, you are not moving fast enough. And let us imagine the outcome if you stay the course. You have built leverage, you have acted boldly, you have weathered resistance. Where are you now? You are no longer just wealthy. You are necessary. People depend on you. They seek your approval. They quote your words. They echo your ideas. You have become a node of power in the system. And here is the twist. The wealth becomes automatic. Money comes to you not because you chase it, but because you now represent control, stability, opportunity. But that is not the end. That is just the beginning of real power. Because now you not only own assets, you shape environments, you influence outcomes. You play a role in how industries evolve, how cultures shift, how empires rise. That is the level Machiavelli revered. Not the man who counted coins, but the man who controlled the mint. Not the one who begged for favors, but the one who decided who got them. So, what does this mean for you? It means you must act today. Identify one area where you have been thinking too small. One opportunity you have delayed. One move you have postponed out of fear, and execute it. Reach out to the investor. Launch the idea. Form the alliance. Begin the media presence. Create the system. Make the ask. Build the product. Not later, now. Because the world does not wait for the hesitant. Wealth does not flow to the cautious. Opportunity does not slow down for your doubts. And history does not remember the careful. It remembers the bold, those who acted, those who risked, those who saw faster, moved faster, and forced the world to take notice. This is the law of momentum. Those who move with force gain more force. Every bold action you take creates gravity. It pulls people, opportunities, and money toward you. Soon your name becomes a magnet and the game flips. Instead of chasing, you are being chased. Instead of seeking, you are being sought. And that shift from the seeker to the source is the true beginning of unstoppable wealth. And once you have entered that gravity field, the rules of the game change completely. You are no longer just playing to survive or even to succeed. You are playing to rule. Every move you make sends ripples across your network, your market, your enemies. You speak and people listen. You appear and the atmosphere changes. Why? Because you have built leverage upon leverage stacked like weapons in the hands of a strategist. That is not luck. That is not magic. That is Machiavellian mastery. And it only belongs to those who understand that speed, power, and positioning are the true currency of wealth. But here is the final layer most never reach. The truly rich, the untouchables, do not just leverage others. They create ecosystems. They do not just build products. They build platforms. They do not just sell things. They become the gatekeepers through which others must pass. They stop playing roles and start writing scripts. That is how dynasties are built. That is how rulers rise. And that is how wealth transforms from something you earn into something you generate at will. Let us talk about strategic positioning. The poor try to build value from the outside in. They chase markets, trends, or permission. But the rich, those who move fastest, start from the center. They place themselves where wealth already flows, in capital networks, in distribution pipelines, in attention hubs, and once positioned, they extract value with minimal friction. This is why bankers, brokers, and tech founders dominate so quickly. They did not build wealth from nothing. They intercepted it mid-flow. You must ask yourself, where does money naturally flow in the world you live in? And how can you place yourself in that stream? Not at the edge, but at the source. Maybe it is in a new platform, an emerging technology, a fast-growing industry, or even a cultural shift. Do not wait to be invited. Insert yourself early aggressively, before the crowd wakes up, because once the crowd arrives, the margins shrink. The first mover takes the lion's share, everyone else fights over scraps. That is why you must master timing. The faster you can identify a rising opportunity and act decisively, the more wealth you capture before the rest of the world even realizes what is happening. This is not gambling. It is strategic preemption. It is acting on signals before they become noise. And while the crowd is still debating, you are executing. While they are waiting for certainty, you are building dominance. That is how fortunes are made in silence, then revealed with shock. People say, where did he come from? They never saw the moves, only the result. That is the beauty of strategic speed. It is invisible until it is undeniable. And what happens when you master this level of movement? You no longer chase any opportunity. You become the opportunity. People pitch you. They offer equity, partnership, positions, because your presence adds value. That is when you stop being a player in someone else's game and start becoming the architect of your own. But this is where the game becomes dangerous. because the more power you accumulate, the more you will threaten those who depend on the old order. They will try to discredit you, copy you, block you. They will whisper, accuse, and conspire. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because you have moved too fast for them to keep up. And in their fear, they will try to pull you back down. This is the Machiavellian reality. Power always creates enemies. But the worst mistake you can make is slowing down to explain yourself to those who never understood the game in the first place. The lion does not negotiate with the sheep. He moves, he roars, he conquers, and the world adapts. So when they try to shame you for moving boldly, thank them. When they envy your rise, smile. When they spread rumors, let them, because noise means motion. Resistance means momentum. It is all proof that you are no longer one of them. You are ahead of them. You have graduated from the school of survival, and now you sit at the table of dominion. The endgame is not just money. It never was. It is power. Money is simply the shadow cast by influence. And influence is born from leverage amplified by speed and sustained by strategy. When you control attention, you control behavior. When you control perception, you control belief. When you control belief, you control action. And when you control action, you print money. That is why the rich do not fear loss. They can lose everything today and rebuild tomorrow, because they never relied on income, they relied on influence. You must train yourself to do the same. Build systems that run without you. Build networks that talk about you when you are not in the room. Build brands so powerful that they convert attention into cash even while you sleep. Do not be the one who works for the machine. Be the one who owns it. And as you scale, never forget this. You are not here to compete. You are here to dominate. Competing is for those still asking permission. Dominating is for those who take it. Machiavelli never wrote about fair play. He wrote about effective play. He wrote about the power to bend rules, shape minds, and engineer outcomes. That is the spirit you must carry into every decision. So what is the final step? There is none. Because once you understand leverage, once you embrace boldness, once you move faster than the doubt of the average man, you never stop. You become a force of momentum. You evolve from man to movement. And movements do not ask, they act. They disrupt. They define the era. Now ask yourself, are you willing to be seen as dangerous? Are you willing to act when others freeze? Are you willing to take so much action so fast that the old you would not even recognize the person you are becoming? That is the standard. That is the cost. That is the path. The fastest way to get rich is not hidden. It is just uncomfortable. It demands more from you than society ever told you to give. It requires you to think like a commander, not a follower, to act like a prince, not a pawn, and to move like the world belongs to you. Not because it does, but because you are willing to take it before anyone else even tries. So burn this into your mind. Wealth flows not to the careful, not to the kind, not to the quiet, but to the bold, to the fast, to the strategic. Be all three. And the world will not just give you riches, it will give you rule. Because in the end, fortune belongs to the bold, and the bold do not wait.